When people talk about the lunchbox, they usually describe it as a beautiful love story. And while it certainly contains romance, I believe calling it a love story alone doesn't do justice to what the film is trying to say. At its heart, the lunchbox is a meditation on loneliness, routine, missed opportunities, and the quiet human desire to be truly seen. Unlike most romantic films, there are no grand declarations of love, dramatic confrontations, or extravagant gestures. Instead, the movie builds its emotional power through handwritten letters, everyday conversations, and ordinary meals. It reminds us that the most profound relationships are often formed not through dramatic events but through simple acts of kindness and honest communication. The most obvious symbol in the film is the lunchbox itself. At first, it appears to be nothing more than a delivery mistake. Ila carefully prepares meals for her husband, hoping to revive their failing marriage. But due to rare error in Mumbai's famous lunchbox delivery system, the meals reach Sergeant Fernandez instead. On the surface, this is an accident. Philosophically, however, the lunchbox represents something much deeper. It becomes a bridge between two lonely people who would never have met under ordinary circumstances. The lunchbox carries much more than food. It carries attention, affection, hope, and eventually vulnerability. In our increasingly digital world, we often communicate instantly, but rarely connect deeply. The lunchbox reminds us that genuine connection does not require technology. Sometimes all it takes is knowing that someone, somewhere is listening. One of the most beautiful aspects of the film is that Ila never says I love you to Sajan. Instead, she cooks. Each meal reflects her emotions. When she is hopeful, the food is prepared with excitement. When she is disappointed, her cooking changes. Every spice, every carefully packed container becomes a sentence she cannot speak aloud. There is a memorable moment when Sajan leaves a note saying that the food was too salty. At first, the exchange appears humorous, but it marks the beginning of genuine communication. Ila finally realizes that someone is paying attention to her efforts. For perhaps the first time in years, she feels acknowledged. The film suggests that love is not always expressed through words. Sometimes it is expressed through the effort we invest in caring for another person. Mumbai is one of the busiest cities in the world, yet almost every major character in the film feels profoundly alone. Sajan lives by himself after the death of his wife. His apartment is silent. His daily routine never changes. He goes to work, returns home, eats dinner, and waits for another identical day. Ila lives with her husband, but emotional distance has made their marriage feel emptier than solitude. Although they share the same home, they rarely share their lives. The irony is striking. Two people surrounded by millions of others discover companionship through a lunchbox that was delivered to the wrong address. The film quietly asks a difficult question. Can someone feel more isolated inside a relationship than while living alone? One scene that always stands out to me is Sajan's daily routine. Every day unfolds exactly like the one before it. He travels on the same train, sits at the same desk, eats lunch alone, and returns to an empty apartment. Nothing dramatic happens, and that's precisely the point. The film argues that routine can slowly become a prison. We become so accustomed to repetition that we stop imagining different possibilities. Sajan had accepted loneliness as though it were simply another part of life. Then one wrongly delivered lunchbox disrupts that routine. The movie reminds us that transformation often begins with something unexpectedly small. As Sajan and Ela begin exchanging letters through the lunchbox, something remarkable happens. They tell each other things they cannot tell the people closest to them. Why? Because strangers often judge us less than those who know us. The letters create a space free from expectation and social roles. Sajan is no longer simply a retired accountant. Ela is no longer a neglected wife. Through writing, they become two human beings, searching for understanding. The film suggests that genuine intimacy begins not when people meet, but when they allow themselves to be vulnerable. One of my favorite characters is Sheikh, the cheerful young employee assigned to learn from Sajan before his retirement. Initially, Sajan finds him irritating. Sheikh talks constantly, asks endless questions, and refuses to respect emotional distance. Yet over time, Sheikh becomes impossible to ignore. Philosophically, Sheikh represents life's refusal to let us remain emotionally close forever. Sometimes hope enters our lives in forms we initially reject. His optimism slowly softens Sajan's bitterness, reminding him that even after decades of disappointment, human connection remains possible. Throughout the film, trains appear repeatedly. Most viewers see them simply as transportation. I think they symbolize life's continuous movement. Every train presents a decision. Stay where you are, or board a journey towards uncertainty. By the end of the movie, Sajan faces exactly that dilemma. Should he continue living the predictable life he has always known, or should he risk everything for a possibility that may not even exist? The film reminds us that certainty often feels safe, but it can quietly become another form of regret. Many viewers were frustrated because the film does not give us a conventional romantic ending. But I believe that is exactly why it works. Life rarely provides perfect conclusions. Sometimes people arrive too late. Sometimes timing fails. Sometimes the people whose lives we deeply influence are not the people we ultimately spend our lives with. Yet that doesn't mean the relationship lacked meaning. Whether Sajan and Ela ultimately meet becomes less important than who they become because of each other. Before exchanging letters, both had stopped expecting happiness. Afterwards, both begin imagining a different future. The relationship succeeds because it transforms them, regardless of where they finally end up. If I had to summarize the lunchbox in one sentence, it would be this. Human beings don't merely need food to survive. They need to feel seen. Every character in the film hungers for recognition more than affection. Ela wants someone to notice her effort. Sajan wants someone to remember that he exists. Sheikh wants acceptance. Even the unseen auntie upstairs longs for companionship. The lunchbox feeds their bodies. The letters feed their souls. The lunchbox isn't simply about romance. It's about how ordinary moments can quietly change the course of a life. It's about finding hope after disappointment. It's about discovering that even in the middle of one of the world's busiest cities, a single act of kindness can break years of loneliness. Most importantly, it's a reminder that we often underestimate the impact our smallest gestures can have on another person's life. For me, The Lunchbox is one of the finest films ever made because it understands something that many modern movies forget. The loudest emotions are not always the deepest. Sometimes a handwritten letter, a shared meal, and an unexpected friendship can say more about love than 100 dramatic speeches. If this video helped you appreciate the Lunchbox beyond its beautiful story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think the film is really about? Was it a love story, a story about loneliness, or a story about second chances? Share your perspective in the comments, because films like this often mean something different to every viewer. If you enjoy exploring the philosophy, symbolism, and hidden meanings behind great movies, don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. On this channel, we don't just explain movies, we explore the ideas they leave behind. Because some films entertain us for a few hours, but the greatest films quietly change the way we see life. Till then, tata bye bye. I'll see you in the next video.